Hey guys, this is Devon. I just wanted to let you know that this episode doesn't have the fidelity of our other episodes because we have a different mic setup. So please excuse the low mics and please enjoy the episode. Thanks.
Saturday, November 21st, 2015. This is Breaking Buttons, Episode 2. My name is Justin Keys.
And my name is Devon Keys. And today we're going to be talking about Grand Theft Auto.
Yes, Grand Theft Auto, which there's actually quite a number of entries in the series.
A lot of them.
Yes, very popular series as well.
Not as many as Tony Hawk.
I don't know, because GTA 5, didn't that break a lot of records for like best media sold ever?
It did.
Yeah.
Wow, right up there with Super Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah. Oh. So, coming all the way back, the first two Grand Theft Autos you probably wouldn't recognize as being Grand Theft Auto if you were to see them now. Top-down view, stationary camera kind of deal, which made driving very awkward, I gotta say. Pressing left and watching your car go right because you're driving south is a little odd, but
that's
yeah.
weird. So I've never played the top-down ones. Liberty, not Liberty City.
Just
was
one, two, and then London.
Was Chinatown Wars one of those?
Chinatown Wars is like a happy in between from the top-down ones and the 3D ones.
Oh, interesting.
So, that one is actually like an isometric, where these other ones are a direct bird's eye view.
Oh, okay.
And in Chinatown Wars, the camera does follow you behind your car, and as you walk around, the camera moves and rotates. So, because it's actually in a 3D world, and these top-down ones are just 2D. It's interesting. These ones have their own differences. They still have Vice City, Liberty City, and San Andreas. I think all three locations is in the first game.
Interesting.
But you don't play as a specific character that's given to you. You actually get to choose who your character is. They give you a headshot and a short description, and you just select your character. I think it really only changes what you look like. I haven't played those extensively.
Now, are these ones? They're more arcade based, right? They're like focused on mayhem and like causing destruction and stuff like that.
Actually, I would say they're still pretty similar to the 3D ones that people are used to today.
Really?
They just don't play quite the same way. They're still mission-based. You go up to like your phone, or a phone booth rather, or somewhere and get a mission details like, hey, go kill this guy or something like that. And you can find those rampages around and just, it starts like, oh, kill these people with a flamethrower.
Okay, yeah. So they had rampage sections, but it was largely still mission based.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I had no idea what the story was. Not a single clue.
You didn't have to go bowling, did you?
You may have gone. No, of course not. All right, so I mean that's pretty much all I gotta say about those two. I know that they were both on PC, and there was a London one which it looked like number 2 but reskinned. So instead of like the cops had like the little
the little caps,
yeah, whatever they're called,
and the whistles.
Yeah. So, then there was number 3, right?
So Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first Grand Theft Auto I played. And
for a lot of people. Yeah,
and it was I guess it did kind of just get mainstream, huh, after that.
Yeah, really put the game on the map. Semi-interesting thing. There was a game before that called Body Harvest on the Nintendo 64.
I heard of Body Harvest.
That was made by the people who would later become Rockstar North.
Really?
Or the company that would later become, I think.
Uh-huh.
And that was open world 3D. You did have vehicles you can jump into and shoot stuff, and you'd like defending from invading bug aliens or something like that.
Body Harvest?
Yeah, Body Harvest.
Interesting. Was this a rated M game?
I I can't remember. It could be teen.
That was on N64.
Yeah, which is interesting because you never see a GTA on a Nintendo console besides the handhelds, that is.
Right.
I think it's because I read something about they had a bad experience trying to get that game out on the 64. I'm not sure what the reason for that was. But yeah, interesting, I thought. So that kind of led into the 3D GTA.
That is really interesting.
Yeah, it has. If you look at it, the radar looks very similar. It's that circular type of radar. You can see how it kind of evolved into GTA 3's radar.
Mm. So, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, when I first played GTA 3, I believe on
PS2.
PS2, yeah. It was the first thing that I remember doing was running over to a car, driving into a wall, and then getting the slow motion pill or something.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it was really odd.
I'm not even sure what those were for.
That was my first experience with it, but it was really cool to see this kind of, because this was my first time interacting with a world that was this open world thing that seems to be so popular now.
Right.
But this kind of thing where you just have a lot of space everywhere and you can pretty much do like a playground, like a sandbox game. Although it wasn't sandbox, obviously, but that kind of play where you can just kind of do whatever you want.
And then get punished for it because you're doing illegal stuff.
Right. So that was quite interesting. The first time that I did that on the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I remember playing that game, and then we would take turns because it's a single player.
Mm.
And a lot of people didn't want to do the missions.
Right.
But sometimes you would, so you could, unlock more areas. And I remember I was driving on this bridge. I've never played this game by myself, and I'm just jumping in the middle of it. And I was like, "Oh, dude, where are you going? This is awesome!" And he's like edging me on to keep going, and the bridge was exploded, so I just fell over the edge and died. And so it was his turn because I died. But anyways, yeah, it was. Speaking of punishment, it was interesting. Remember progressing through the game story?
Not at all.
No, not at all.
Not number 3.
Well, do you remember playing playing in somebody's game save who had gone through pretty far in the game?
Oh yeah. Well, because you would unlock different sections of the city, right?
Of the map, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only way to do that is to go through the story.
Right.
Or, quote, story. But anyways, what I was going to say is, as you get further in the game, you get all these gang members upset. So, the whole thing is, you're just getting all these other gangs that exist in the city upset at you.
That's
so everywhere you drive, they just start shooting you. So, at the end of the game, you're not safe anywhere, except for maybe the last area you unlock. Because as you go unlock other areas, you're more fleeing to that area,
right?
Because the gang members are mad at you. So you drive around, and then you drive around the red light district, and then the mafia just shoots you, and your car's about to explode, and now you got no choice but to jump out.
Right.
And then they shoot you down, and you're like, dang it.
Right.
I just took the wrong turn should have took that left turn on Albuquerque.
I totally. Yeah, I forgot about that. So we would always play in. I think Steven was our friend who had the game or whatever.
Yeah.
And we would drive somewhere, and then like you said, the mafia would just start shooting you, and you're like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Get out of there," And then it was really annoying. Actually, I remember playing number 3 and Vice City a lot. Not so much San Andreas afterwards. Weirdly, because that was based on gangs, but the first 2. Or 3 and Vice City, it was hard to just go in there and just do whatever you wanted. It was more like you go in there and then avoid all the gangs.
Yeah, you were limited after you got so far. In the beginning,
right,
you could do pretty much what you wanted. You just didn't have all the weaponry. So, it was... I hated that too a lot. That's my biggest bother with the game. It's not really necessarily how the mechanics were. Because they were decent for that time. They were pretty good.
Right. That jumping animation was pretty epic, though.
Yeah, it wasn't the blocky character or any of that. It was the gangs shoot you up.
Right. Yeah, that was always really annoying.
Yeah. I wonder, there might be mods for to kind of change that.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
Yeah,
There was one where everyone has a rocket launcher.
Yeah, I remember in that game you could blow off people's body parts, like their limbs
Oh, you
and
could.
their heads and stuff. And I don't remember that being in future ones so much.
Oh, more body parts.
But, yeah. So that was a pretty controversial game. Nothing compared to like 5 nowadays, though. I think games have really just kind of let themselves go in any direction they want.
Well, they've been officially declared pieces of art.
Well,
Whatever.
yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, the first few, I guess this kind of stuff had actually been going on since the first two, right? Like this kind of story, or not the kind of story, but like gameplay with like picking up prostitutes and shooting people with gangs and stuff like that. That violence and everything. That stuff existed in the first two, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember you could get hookers in GTA 3, which they actually served a purpose, which is, that's good for mechanic-wise, like for things to actually serve a purpose. They would increase your health beyond the limit that you would, because normally you can only get 100, right? But I think they can increase it to 125 or 150 or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they had a purpose.
Yeah, that was that's
The story was so, like, almost non-existent, though. It was really just, I don't know, you got betrayed, and then you're trying to, at the end, you try to get back at that person. But through calling random people in the phone booth, I can't even follow the story. And I think that's something consistent in GTAs. Because, like, the story's just, like, I don't know.
open world gameplay is really interesting, and the storytelling device mechanics. We'll get into that later, but let's talk about number 3, San Andreas, the third installment of the 3D games, because it's not number 3.
Well, I mean, Vice City was the next one. I mean, they really just added motorcycles and.
Oh yeah, they did.
Were there helicopters?
I don't
not
remember.
sure. I remember motorcycles being the big thing.
I don't remember being anything. Yeah, besides motorcycles, I don't remember anything being way different in number 2, other than like a bigger place.
Yeah, Vice. Well, I don't know. Even then, Vice City only had 2 islands. Maybe it was larger. It didn't. I don't know. It didn't feel much different. I didn't say it was much better at all than number 3. They were almost interchangeable.
Right.
Bikes was a big thing, but I hated the bikes, how they controlled. Really did. And again, the story was so like, what's going on?
Well,
but, yeah, like you were saying, San Andreas.
San Andreas had a lot of. It had a much deeper story, or at least a more connected story.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, one that made more sense. This one was. I don't remember your character's name.
Carl Johnson.
All right, Carl
Pretty
Johnson.
sure. Yeah, CJ.
Grove Street.
CJ.
He's CJ, right?
Yeah. The Grove Street gang.
Yeah, and it was about your gang's relationship in the field, and your guys working with the cops and working against other gangs and stuff like that. And it was just all kind of this kind of. I think it wanted to go into the underbelly of society type of look,
Mm-hmm.
Like it kept wanting to go into this shadowy area when I don't know it seemed to kind of play towards that ghetto heart area, but I don't know, it didn't really seem to be too controversial to me.
Yeah, San Andreas was a good one, like speaking from a lot of different aspects, but the story I think was way improved over the other ones, and
Yeah.
I could actually follow it. There were still some moments as like, wait, why am I doing this? But for the most part, there was always like some kind of linking factor from one thing to the next.
Right.
And I actually think it had a pretty decent ending too. I mean,
I don't remember the ending.
yeah, but
What was the ending?
that's a spoiler, isn't it?
Oh, spoilers. Spoilers for San Andreas.
I don't know. I gave a spoiler on the
For
last
Tony
episode.
Hawk,
All right, so this is a spoiler alert. So if you plan on finishing this game, tune out for the next, let's say 20 seconds. So, anyways, at the end of the game, you basically got to kill the cop that pretty much threw everything out of array, and they did it in a very good way. Like they had you doing all. It was actually a very long process to get to the end of of this sequence. And he wasn't the only major guy you had to defeat. You had to defeat this other guy. Again, another spoiler alert if you were jumping ahead. One of your gang friends you actually have to kill because he was at the top of it and got into it and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much you find out like your brother gets mad at you for being like, hey, you're not true to the gang, when it turns out the other two guys you hang out with aren't true either. So it was interesting. But yeah, I enjoyed the story overall. That game I think was really good.
Nice. I never played through the story mode for, I think, any Grand Theft Auto game all the way through, just because it never really interested me.
Right? That makes total sense. I think for me it was like my willpower to do
complete.
My completionist inside of me.
Right.
Although San Andreas, it was actually, I wanted to continue and wanted to keep going. I think there was only a couple people I didn't actually want to deal with, because that usually what makes you decide if you want to do those missions or not is
right.
how you feel about the character who leads those missions. But James Woods, he's in there.
Is he?
Yeah, he plays this FBI agent, and he makes things kind of funny. It's great. There was so much new stuff in San Andreas.
Yeah, they had bikes, they had trains,
And this is bicycles as opposed to motorcycles.
right.
Yeah, and they had planes and or a jetpack.
Oh yeah, the jetpack.
Yeah,
Everyone's favorite.
yeah, and you could get buff or get really skinny or
That's
get
right.
really fat.
Yeah, they added like all kinds of character dynamics to this one.
Yeah, it was interesting. You could get girlfriends, which they actually do serve a purpose. It's not just so you can have a girlfriend, although I guess to some extent it is. But they have special abilities that they give you. I think one like helps you with avoiding the cops or something like that. It's hard to remember.
The dynamics in Grand Theft Auto have always really, really, really interested me. Like, it's just really cool to have a game that's all about, mission-based stuff, whatever. But then in between missions, you can do whatever you want, and this includes things like eating at a restaurant, and then, like, doing, I don't know, taking your car and driving it into a paint shop. And
Although, typically you only ate at a restaurant because you need more health. Although you could choose which meal you wanted to eat,
right.
which is kind of funny.
I mean, it's so cool that you can have all this extra stuff that really doesn't have any, specific effect on the game other than, like, basic health or whatever. But, like, changing the color on your car doesn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, it just makes, tune the car to the way you want it to
Right.
look.
And your haircuts, and your...
Yeah, character customization and clothing and stuff. Yeah, I really like that in GTA San Andreas that they had all that car customization stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
They put customization out the wahoo. I mean,
Yeah, they did.
Your character haircut, like you said, and beard, and
Right.
clothes, and body type, and then your vehicles, which you can add nitrous to.
Right.
And there was actually a lot of cool things with the car mechanics as well. Like they put in the ability to do like pit maneuvers and stuff like that, which I thought was really cool and ends up being useful in some cases. And they also added, what was it? You could shoot the gas tank, or actually where
right.
the gas cap goes,
Right.
and
Blow
then
up
the cars explode.
Yeah,
It
it's
didn't
nuts.
make any sense, but it was pretty great.
No, it was cool though, yeah.
But that kind of thing that they would add, just those mechanics of, they're very game kind of style.
Right.
It was like, yes, this is a game. I know shooting the gas cap doesn't really explode your car, but it's fun.
You've never shot a gas cap? No, it definitely explodes a car. That's a real thing.
Don't try that at home.
Yeah, interesting that you bring that up about being gamey, right? What's always been weird about every Grand Theft Auto game is that the story will go, right, you'll play kind of like a linear story, but the story will be broken up in pieces so that you can do them whenever you want in your open world gameplay. So you have you have a story going on where this big drama just happened with your sister, right? And then you're just like, all right, and then and you end the mission, and then you go on to your next one. But hey, let's go run over some pedestrians and go eat a comically large meal over at a pizza barn or whatever. And
then continue and yell at whoever's responsible for whatever.
Right. I mean, it's been so weird because the dissonance there is just so clear, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you're obviously not this guy that's in the story. You're just a funny character, and then every now and then you have serious drama.
Yeah, I mean, there's no link between what happens in the cutscenes to what happens outside of the missions. Like, in San Andreas in the beginning, your gang buddies, make fun of your driving skill, you know, saying that, oh man, you can't drive worth anything. And I think that's kind of a play on like what the previous games, assuming that, you know, you kind of just run over things or whatever and crash the car a lot. I know I did it
because it's really hard to drive in the game.
Yeah. Oh, that crashing. Speaking of that, in San Andreas, what I really hated about this was if you tapped another car or a wall or something, your front fender would just like hang, or your back bumper would just hang and, you know, and bounce as you drove. That annoyed me. It was so easy to do. Or like someone taps the side of your car and the door just gets completely bent in. Like, they barely touched it. It's like, now I gotta go repair it, get another paint job.
Something that happened in San Andreas a lot to me was when I hit something, like you said, just tap a wall or something like that.
Yeah.
And my hood would shoot up. Right. And so I'm like, oh, you know, it's flopping and it's in my way, so let me just hit a pedestrian so that it can come off all the way.
Yeah, you can either go faster and it'll fly off,
Right,
or I tried to slam
off
my brakes so it closes.
I mean, that kind of stuff just... so it doesn't remove me from the game, obviously. It actually, I mean, engages me more into the game because it's stuff that I'm doing that's specific to me and not anything else. But it totally removes you from any... you know, linearity going on, which I guess is kind of unavoidable in a open world system. And I guess mission-based story points were the only way they could break it up.
Yeah. What was also great is that this game had some pretty good cheats. My favorite, and a lot of other people's favorite, I think, is flying cars. It worked really well. And it was very convenient, because then you'd have to get out, find a plane. You could just use your car that you souped up and just fly through the air. Remember that?
Yes. That was my favorite. I love that cheat.
Yeah.
Especially in oh man, there's a mod in number 4 that makes every car... I don't
just
remember.
Moon, like, and it drifts away right when you hit it?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny.
See, San Andreas, what else did they introduce? Skill points, right? Skill level, like
yeah.
how much oxygen capacity, how much you could run.
Oh, they added swimming.
Yeah, swimming. Yeah, you don't just instantly die anymore.
Right.
You actually have a chance to live.
Man, that seems like so long ago.
Yeah, because what's his face? That guy in number 3, he couldn't swim.
Right.
Neither could number 2, so they just drown.
So they
They don't know how to swim, apparently.
As soon as you crash.
Or talk. No, wait, the guy number 3 can't talk. Vice City could. Actually, the guy number 3 shows up in San Andreas, and Carl calls him the mute because he doesn't ever talk.
That's hilarious. That's really funny.
Yeah, and the girl that betrayed you in number 3 is also in San Andreas, and she dates Carl for a little bit as part of the story. You don't have a choice in that one.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a little throwback, which is kind of nice. They also had side missions, which they had in some of the other ones where you could be a taxi driver.
Oh, right,
but in this one, they had more. You could be like a delivery boy.
Also adds to that game-like feel, right? You're like, here's you in a city, and then, go on a rampage.
Rampages were good. I don't remember if San Andreas had those. I can't remember. I want to say they didn't.
San Andreas did?
Yeah.
Well, I know number 3 did.
Yeah, I know number 3 did for sure. But yeah, San Andreas added a lot, and it also kind of took down the barriers between you and going other places before you reach that point in the story.
There was a myth that Bigfoot was in number 3 or San Andreas. I keep referring to San Andreas as number 3
because it's the third one using the GTA 3 engine.
Right.
There you go. So, yeah, that was a great one. I mean, one of my favorites, probably my favorite overall, actually. And they did a lot of changes. Of course, it's not perfect. Like the targeting system was better than 3 and Vice Cities. You could actually like target somebody and shoot them in the head instead of just targeting their body.
Yeah.
And shooting in general.
I never really liked any of the shooting mechanics, I think, in any of the Grand Theft Autos.
They weren't good. They weren't perfect. They weren't that great. They were mediocre at best. I mean, in San Andreas, they kind of worked because you can walk and shoot and stuff like that, and they didn't feel as nearly as clunky as the other 2 games.
Right.
Like, they actually tried. And so it was doable in San Andreas, I think. But yeah, I mean, still not perfect.
San Andreas is what it is. So you want to go bowling?
Before we go bowling, maybe we should take a break.
Is it already break time?
That's about break time. We got 25 minutes. Before we get to bowling, how about what in San Andreas could you do that wasn't directly linked to like other for a reason? I think there was the only thing I could really think of was gambling.
Are you talking about like mini games that weren't linked to this?
To unlocking stuff. Yeah. Yeah, all I can think of is gambling, which actually served a purpose. I mean, you earn money.
Right, yeah. I mean, they do serve purposes. Other than, well, I don't know, I guess in open world gameplay, I guess everything's valid.
Yeah, I guess technically. But, I mean, what is... The thing is, like, what is the focus of Grand Theft Auto? I mean, is it driving? Or is it, like, shooting people?
Grand Theft Auto.
What is the purpose of Grand Theft Auto? But like in a lot of games listed as a driving game because that was like your primary thing you're doing is driving from point A to point B, sometimes shooting people.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you know, it's been weird because every one of the Grand Theft Auto games always has to do with this subject, this story that has to do with like drugs and underground trading and evading the cops and kind of this criminal type of, you know, criminal circle type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always had to do with that. I always thought that was really interesting as an open world story system because in theory it totally works. In the games, I'm not sure how well it works, but that's just my take on open world systems. I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like I guess the point is like, hey, you're a criminal,
right?
In a city, just do criminal activity. Actually, probably one of the worst serial killers out there. You've killed hundreds of people.
They also introduced stats, I think, in number 3, where it said how many people you killed.
Oh yeah. Actually recorded that
driven,
kind of stuff.
How many cars you've crashed, stuff like that. How many cheats
how many cars you've crashed. I think after you kill 3 people, you're technically a serial killer. So in this, what are you? Total maniac or something, or maybe just accident prone.
You know what I love? Yeah, exactly. Oops. You know what I love is like in the story when you're like driving somebody to somewhere in a mission, right? And you just run over a couple of pedestrian noobs, you know, while they're talking about whatever.
Or you get a felony, they're just like, "Hey, man, lose the cops."
Right. Yeah.
No big deal.
Oh man,
right.
Episodes of The Wire. That's what this is.
They're definitely ridiculous.
One thing I wanted to cover was when I was listening to actually another video game podcast called Kane and Rince. They were talking about Grand Theft Auto 4 specifically. That's a question mark because I'm not exactly sure. I think it was 4. Anyway, they were talking about how compared to Saints Row, the Grand Theft Auto series has this kind of world that's somewhat regular, right? There's traffic lights, people follow the rules. The whole game is just kind of, you know, a regular world.
Yeah, it's kind of meant to be like living and breathing,
right? Like
how ours are,
right? And then within the Grand Theft Auto world of this normality, you have crazy, you know, stuff like blowing up cars, running over pedestrians, going over jumps, riding bicycles, jetpacks, all that. So you have crazy ass mechanics and crazy, you know, things happening in this normal world, one of the guys on the podcast said that actually makes it more special to him, as opposed to something like Saints Row 3 or Saints Row 4 or whatever, that embraces the craziness and lets the player do.
So that guy can let out his inner maniac.
Right.
So he can see that, walk around and compare this. Oh, hey, this world is just like our world.
Right.
Traffic lights and rules and stuff. I don't want to follow that in this world, but I do.
Right.
So let's go in a video game and totally just kill people because
he
I don't do that in real life.
He said, air quotes, that it's like breaking the rules almost, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
I compared it to Portal when I was thinking about this before, when the second part of Portal where you're going behind the scenes,
Instead, when you're outside of the test chambers,
right, and you're doing stuff that feels like you're going against the system, and that's I think that's what he was talking about, was that this whole gameplay that's in Saints Row that's very much adored and very much encouraged. Grand Theft Auto doesn't necessarily encourage it, but it allows it, and they say that kind of feels like you said, unlocking your inner maniac or whatever.
Yeah, that's interesting because Saints Row originally was kind of like the San Andreas clone.
Right.
Yeah, building off that popularity. But yeah, that totally makes sense. Like going against the rules and just breaking them, even though it allows it.
I'm not so sure he's right. I think it's a really interesting observation. I personally like Saints Row better than Grand Theft Auto because
it embraces what it is.
Well, and that's the thing. Is embracing what you are a good thing, or is working against it the better thing?
I don't know. I mean, hey, in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, we wanted it to jump over the fence in Roswell, which
Right.
you cannot do. If the game allowed it, would it have been better? I mean,
is
that a fair comparison at all?
Well, it kind of is. It kind of is. I mean, it's like wanting to get Mew in Pokemon, and when you wanted to get Mew when there was no Mew, or when it was very rare or whatever. When you wanted to get it when it what happened to our? Oh, never mind.
Yeah,
it's glitching out. Okay, never mind. When you wanted to get Mew in, say, like the blue and red versions of Pokemon,
which you could through certain...
Right, which you could through certain cheats and whatnot. But if you tried to get it, via a secret method or whatever, it felt like you were going underneath the game system, right? And then later on in Gold and Silver, when you could get Mew, suddenly it didn't feel very special.
Yeah.
So, do the mechanics behave like that? I'm not sure.
All right. Well, then
On that
let's
note,
take a break.
take a break.
Next up, bowling.
Bowling.
All right, and we're back.
And what's up, Doc?
What was that?
That was and we're back from Merry Melodies.
Okay.
Yeah, Looney Tunes, man. Okay,
Yeah,
anyway.
I know Looney Tunes. But anyways, so bowling. What exactly bowling?
Cousin. What?
What exactly with bowling?
Oh, I don't know. Everyone loves.
Is that what you remember most from GTA 4?
From GTA 4, yeah, this is the bowling, because every time you would always be going on to, you'd just be screwing around, and then Roman. Is it Roman? I don't remember.
Yeah, that your cousin.
Yeah, cousin. He would call you and be like, "Let's go bowling."
Oh yeah, that's right. You had so-called friends who would call you up to want to do things, and you could be like, "Yeah," and you become a better friend, or you say no, go away, and they like you less.
And it would be like Facebook, except for a game system.
Well, I mean, they gave them some kind of purpose. Like if you reached 100% friendship, which I guess friendship has a measurement, it would have some sort of benefit. Same thing with the girlfriends in this one, which I think there's a couple girlfriends.
Only 85% friendship.
But yeah, 4. I felt like 4 did try to go more with story oriented again.
So it did. It tried to.
Yeah, tried. Keyword. I it suffered from the same linking issue as the other games, where except I think more than it did in San Andreas, where you're like,
Right.
why am I here?
Right.
Who am I working for?
Even more.
How do they know me again? And it's because it was so like such a small little link that it's easy to forget, easy to miss. It's like, oh yeah, you know that guy you were just working for? Well, I'm his brother, so and he owes me a favor, so you're gonna work for me now. I mean, it's just so forgetful, and then you just really get lost at why you're doing whatever you're doing.
Well, so the story in this one really was really commenting, at least. I don't know if it social commentary at all, because GTA games, I think, were really bad at social commentary. But if there was any, it was about foreign. It was about immigrants, right? About them coming in and working and stuff. That's why he's doing a bunch of odd jobs. Because you're going from place to place and you're trying to make it as an American.
He's doing odd jobs because he's looking for someone.
Well, yeah, right. This one suffered from the same thing that San Andreas did, and that was dramatic story, really silly gameplay, right?
Right. Your character's very serious.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, I just want to find this guy," but
Right.
yet I don't have any trouble driving around, running over people, and evading the cops.
Doing the jump, doing flips in the air.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Speaking of cops, they changed up how the felony system kind of worked. I mean, you still get felonies for shooting people and for other people seeing you, and stuff like that. But as far as avoiding the cops, they did this whole thing where there's a circular. I guess it's the search radius
Oh, yeah.
of your last known location, and you would, once you left that, your heat would start to go down, and then it would go away. But until you left that circle, it wasn't going to go away.
Right.
Which was interesting. I thought it worked out pretty well.
I liked it. Because it actually felt like, mechanically, that you were running away from cops.
Yeah.
And not just eternally being chased until you died.
Yeah, it got super hard when there was 6 stars,
Right.
But if you hid long enough, you could surpass, 10 minutes of that.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. Man, 4 felt so great when it first came out. The world felt huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah, compared, I mean, it felt a little bit smaller than San Andreas, because San Andreas had that whole, this huge area. It didn't feel like you were on an island, even though you technically still are.
Uh-huh.
And you could fly from place to place. And this one toned it down to you can only use choppers and not actual airplanes. But that's because it's a city,
Right. Well,
Liberty
yeah,
City once again.
I guess it feels more like a city than it does like a Lego city.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, actually, when I first played it, I remember not liking how the cars handle. I'm like, this is too realistic or something. It doesn't feel. It's just odd. Way different than San Andreas.
Yeah.
San Andreas, you make a 90-degree turn, no problem, no matter what speed. This one is way more difficult. You drift and float, but I got used to it, and then I ended up liking it better.
Nice.
What I did love is that there was no bumpers hanging off. You could hit those cars together and still be all right. It doesn't look too bad.
Right.
Can't see scratches.
Yeah, this one did get drenched in a bit more of realism. I remember it did try to add, I mean, not only better graphics, but a more down to earth story, a more basic way of doing things, and then diversions that were things like bowling and
Darts.
Right? You could
Pool, which wasn't too bad. Oh, pool was in San Andreas. I remember that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, pool's not a bad pastime though. Darts is. Don't do darts.
Don't do
If someone calls you up and say, "Hey, you want to play darts?" You'd be, "No, sorry, I can't. Gotta wash my hair." Speaking of hair, there was no customization to the extent that was in San Andreas. Like no car customization or features. There was clothing,
Mhm.
but all the clothing looked pretty bad. So there was almost no point in doing it at all. I mean, you get suits and stuff, which were expensive, but hats and stuff, I don't know. I mean, to me, they all looked pretty ridiculous. They didn't look good at all. So I never saw the point in doing it. But I don't know. 4 was 4 was good.
It was fun. I mean, for the game that it was, because I don't know. Open world games are just weird to me. I love the idea of open world gameplay. I like what's that game where you're like a demon or something like that, and you're jumping from building to building.
Prototype.
Those games are what I think of whenever I think of open world mostly, and that's like Spider-Man 2, Duck Dodgers maybe.
Yeah, you really, because those ones you really feel like you're doing what you should be doing. Like in Prototype, yeah, you kill a lot of people, but I mean your weird body depends on it, and you need to absorb those people. In Grand Theft Auto, you kill a lot of people because you got bored. Or you got a new weapon, you want to test it out. But then your character goes in the mission, and it doesn't portray you as this mass murderer. You're like, no, dude, I want to do the right thing. I don't want to be part of this.
Right.
Try to be a high and mighty on your horse, and then you go and choose who you want to kill. They had choice in GTA 4, but not a whole lot. There was only like a couple scenes, which is what's weird because they introduced that mechanic early on in the game. Do you remember that?
I don't really remember that.
Yeah, see, that's how forgettable it is. You could choose if someone lived or died, but only a couple times in the game.
Oh, okay.
So it's really like, why do they even have that? I mean, it doesn't hardly affect the outcome. But there's two endings to the game.
Player choice.
Yeah, depending on choice.
Player choice is all dependent on. I mean, it is usually put into linear gameplay styles, right? Because if you truly have an open, non-linear gameplay, then every choice that you make is valid, right?
Right.
Like in like Half-Life. No, that's not a good idea. Nope.
No, it's not.
Well, what was the game that I was going to think of? Oh, Minecraft. I don't know why I said Half-Life. In Minecraft.
What's the difference?
It's basically the same game, right?
Yeah.
Minecraft.
Gordon
Half-Life.
Freeman.
Yeah.
Stan.
Yeah.
Whatever his name is.
It's the same thing. In Minecraft, it's purely open world. Now, I'm not talking about any of the narrative in Minecraft because I think there was some. But just the fact that you're playing in the world, every decision that you make is valid because every decision is contributing to your own unique story. Same with the game DayZ, right? These are games where you make your own story by playing the game. Every choice that you make is valid. Could you imagine Minecraft where you're going, mining down a tunnel or whatever, and you come to like a split, right? And then where you can go left or right, and suddenly your character says, "Okay, do I want to go left? Or do I want to go right?" Right? I mean, it's splitting up linear gameplay and putting it into a non-linear system is always just really weird, and I've never really enjoyed that about the Grand Theft Auto games.
Yeah, I mean, that just makes me want to play the game twice, so I can do the opposite of what I did the first time.
Exactly.
This is part of my completionist nature.
Exactly.
I mean, there were certain things like, hey, if you killed this guy, then you never see him again, obviously, because he's dead, or if you don't kill him, you run into him later, and you kind of have there's more to his story. This other point, you get to choose between two guys to kill, and one, you get this nice house and a car, and the other one...
It's nice for variety.
You don't. Yeah, very little variety, but it's there.
But it's there, right? It makes you feel like there's something that could have happened that you chose not to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing like in the Fallout games where you're really making choices.
Right.
Depending on which one you're playing.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, just little mediocre choices. It doesn't matter if they were there or not. But
yeah. So when did 5 come out?
I think we're skipping a bit for 5, but
Well, I was just wondering. When
like
did
2
5
years ago, I think.
And when did 4 come out?
2008, I want to say. I'm not sure.
Huh.
But there was a pretty big gap. There was a big gap between 4 and San Andreas, it felt.
There's a pretty big gap between 3 and 4 also.
But let's see. In 4 also had these... So Vice City and San Andreas were kind of like Oh yeah, we're still sort of in the GTA 3 engine. We're not number 4. We're prequels. We're kind of what's next, even though they're not in the same world at all. 4 did something like that. They had Liberty City Stories. They had 2. It's one called The Lost and Damned, and the other one is The Ballad of Gay Tony. But both of those set in Liberty City and ran in the GTA 4 engine. They weren't big enough to be separate games, whereas Vice City and San Andreas were. But I think those expanded more on the narrative. I didn't get to complete either of them, but Lost and Damned was all about this this biker gang from the Lost game, which is such a dumb title. Anyways, but yeah, it focused on his narrative, and then the other one was this other guy. I didn't get very far in that one at all because I wanted to finish the Lost first, but it focused on this guy, I think, who worked for a nightclub at first or something. But
did they? I mean, so you said they expanded on the narrative. When you play these ones, are they like they're mission based also?
Yes, they play just like 4 does.
Yeah.
Yeah, except I don't think there's anybody calling you who's like, hey, you want to play darts, or my cousin, let's go bowling.
So they're just different, basically different cutscenes and different tiny mechanic plays and every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot, some different weapons.
Huh.
But yeah, it's just more of the same, which I think is, I think that's fine. If people enjoy a series, there's nothing wrong with the change of... Usually I would say change of scenery, but in this case it's not a change of scenery.
Well, I guess if it's lore that you like, right? If it's really the narrative that you were into in number 4, then these extra ones would give you more lore.
Yeah, but I don't think the narrative really links that much to...
Oh, really?
Not that I've seen. I didn't, again, I didn't complete the game, but I felt that it was the same between all the other Grand Theft Autos, where it just kind of talks about it, mentions it. I mean, even 5 briefly mentions, there's a guy making moves in Liberty City, but he went quiet. It's like, it's almost like, why even mention that?
Mm-hmm.
If you're, but, they like little hints and nods and stuff. But yeah, you're right. If you want more information just about this whole series in general, then yeah, you want to play kind of that, and especially more of the same, because, like, say Crysis, for instance, and then there was Crysis Warhead, and that's a game not big enough to be its own, but it's the same gameplay, same kind of island structure, and it's for people who's like, man, Crysis was good, I want to play more of it, but I don't necessarily want to play the same story.
So just DLC stuff, basically.
Yeah, it's similar to like DLC.
So something that you want more stuff to do, basically.
Yeah, you want more different to do. Like, you got 100% completion.
Right.
But you want more, yeah. Although, I don't think anyone plays GTA really for the story.
I don't think anyone does.
I mean, I tried that once and I got lost. So lost. So, another good GTA. Although I feel like we're missing some gaps in number 4 that we could be talking about. But anyways, in Chinatown Wars is one of the spin-off ones that I played all the way through, and I think that one also had a good story. Easily my favorite handheld GTA, besides the only handheld GTA I've ever played. It's, even though that it's not the 3D kind of way, and it's the in-between isometric view, it plays really well. It's on the DS. It's like I think it's like the one of 2 GTA titles on Nintendo platforms. The other was like a remake of the original on Game Boy Advance.
I heard it got really good ratings.
Oh yeah, it did. It even in Nintendo Power's yearly poll, I think it made DS Game of the Year.
Oh well.
But apparently it didn't sell as well as Rockstar had hoped. So that's kind of our loss for having any GTAs on Nintendo platforms. Which I think that's too bad. I mean, they could really do something with 3DS. At least.
That would be really cool to see a game of that fidelity on a 3DS.
Yeah. I mean, somebody else tried to do something back on the DS to kind of emulate the same kind of 3D GTA style of play, where you were a cop instead, of course, because now you're all your actions are fine. It's okay to grab random vehicles because you're a cop. You're just undercover, so you can't let, if you kill somebody, you can't say, oh yeah, it's okay, I'm a cop, because
Right.
you're undercover. But it didn't reach that same factor. But on 3DS, hey, there could be games like that now. I mean, come on, somebody can do it. Come on,
Come on.
come on,
You
my
know-
cousin.
Sleeping Dogs was another one that was, we'll call them GTA clones. I know that's probably
Probably insulting to some people.
insulting to some people, right? I've never actually played Sleeping Dogs, but
I
but
heard
I've
it's
seen,
really good.
yeah, I've seen gameplay for it, and it looks really good. But from what you were saying about how you're a cop, on this other game, and that therefore it justifies all your stealing cars and whatnot. In Sleeping Dogs, I believe you're also a cop, or at least a person who's supposed to be good. And the stuff that you do, like stealing cars and knocking over pedestrians and stuff like that, adds to your bad cop mentality or your negative mentality.
Hey, this sounds like actually more of a clone of Streets of L.A. True Crime Streets of
Oh,
L.A.
True Crime, yeah.
Yeah.
True Crime was
There's also
interesting.
Streets of New York, which was weird, but yeah, that had the good cop bad cop thing in it.
True Crime had,
And then it got weird.
it was weird, yeah.
You got you're fighting demons and stuff later. I was like, what is going on? I beat that whole game in one night.
In True Crime.
Yeah. That's all I did for probably 6 hours.
Nice. Okay, so is that your spiel about Chinatown? Or
Well,
I've
hey,
never played
Chinatown also had Dead Mouse music in it.
well,
which
all right,
isn't-
points. There you go. You get points for that.
Yeah, you got some actual real electronica. Of course, it's that same kind of,
GTA 4 had Dead Mouse also, didn't it?
did it? I don't know. Maybe on its random stations.
I don't
I mean, it was a Dead Mouse station.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, Dead Mouse Station. That's funny.
Yeah, it was great. It had some online capabilities, which GTA 4 did too. That's the first online multiplayer Grand Theft Auto game. It had collectibles just like all the other ones. It had rampages again, which were great. And like I said, the story was good. It used the touchscreen in a pretty nice way for jacking cars. And depending on what kind of car you got into, you either just put a screwdriver in the
Oh,
ignition,
interesting.
or you would hack it or hotwire it or use this touchpad panel thing.
That's cool.
And you would fill your own model tops. You go to a gas station, pay for some gas, and then there was a mini game kind of thing where you try to get the gas to go into the bottles and fill them up, and then however many you filled is how many Molotovs you got.
Nice.
But yeah,
Nice.
it was pretty good. I'd recommend it, especially you can find it for cheap because it's a DS title.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I guess there's the latest one, GTA 5.
GTA 5,
Yeah.
which is has amazingly sold everywhere.
Yeah, sold like crazy.
You know what's funny? So you know how I'm saying I'm not a huge fan of the GTA series, but so GTA 5 didn't really catch my interest, and I know that sounds crazy, but I just wasn't a huge fan of 4, so 5 didn't interest me anyway. But when they made, I remember looking at it at E3, and they were talking about this new mechanic of switching between 3 characters.
Yeah, I like that.
And how this world just kind of lives and breathes by itself, as well as your characters. Your characters kind of just live by themselves also until you can take control of them. What was I going to say about it? There was shoot, I'm having a brain fart. No.
Well, you were saying the characters live and breathe.
Oh, live and breathe. So, there was a really cool post on Reddit, and what was really cool was that someone had gone throughout the game GTA 5 and filmed different parts of the life just going on, just living, right? Just people walking, interacting,
And talking with the usually on the cell phone, ridiculous conversations.
they didn't do the context so much, but they did do visuals. But it looked like it was a short film shot in the GTA universe, in the GTA 5 universe, and all this put together made this little trailer that was inadvertently a trailer for GTA 5, but it looked like a small short film. Just
Actually,
documentary lifestyle.
since you said you hadn't actually played the game,
Uh-huh.
there is something that I haven't actually explored,
Uh-huh.
but if I getting this correctly, you can make your own cinematic sort of scenes. You get people as every time you beat a mission with somebody that you met new, you unlock that person in the director mode or whatever it is. So you can drop these people in there and do something. I haven't explored it, but that they may have built something off of that.
Well, the point of it was that after seeing this video that this person made, I really wanted to play GTA 5.
Because you like to create stuff.
Well, no, because it was a live living world. You know, when I looked at Minecraft or Proteus, both these games had a world that you could explore that was independent of itself, right? Like, it would exist, not, you know, it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, you run into other villagers and
right.
sheep and stuff.
And GTA 5 just looked like a virtual world of our world. And I know GTA 4 and 3 had that too. I mean, that was kind of the whole premise of the game. But this one just felt so lively, so alive. And
they have wildlife and stuff.
Right.
I mean, that's really... that was one thing that I felt was really nice. As I was driving around, there was like deer running out of the way. And they have more than just deer. I mean, like, it's easy for a game to just like, oh, you know what? Let's throw in some wildlife. Let's just put deer. You know, they have all kinds of animals. You know, little bunnies and things. Like, almost to the extent of kind of like when you're in Skyrim just running around and you see all this wildlife. It's kind of that way here, you know,
so
boars, and if you're out, one bad thing though is like you're out by yourself walking around on the mountain, you get attacked by a mountain lion and it'll kill you.
Did you know if you go to a mountain around here and get attacked by a mountain lion, you'll probably get killed?
Yeah, but I think sometimes they go out of their way to like spawn one near you. Cause I was on the road just because my car kind of crashed it because I tried to take a shortcut. And I was just walking up towards this tunnel, and then a mountain lion comes down and jumps on me and kills me. I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from?
That was a tunnel lion. The tunnel lions hide up by the tunnels.
Oh, yeah, of course. But
so, so tell me about GTA 5. I haven't actually ever played it.
Okay, so yeah, you know, like you said, the character switching thing, that was an interesting mechanic, I thought. Because when one character's health is low and you don't want to find, you know, something to eat, just switch characters.
That's funny. That's funny.
But they have three very different characters. You got like your guy who's hanging out with a gang wannabe dude. I'm not sure if you're actually in a gang or not. It's kind of hard to tell, or maybe you used to be. I'm not really sure. But they classify him as this gangbanger type guy who wants to get out of the ghetto and go further with his life, and his friends are actually real jerks. I mean, they don't want him to go anywhere. It's like, hey, you're
which character is this?
This is Franklin. This is the black guy.
Black dude. Okay.
Yeah. Him and when him and his best friend Lamar, they just like to drop the N-word like nobody's business. And then the next guy, Michael, is like this con man who's quote unquote retired now, even though he like wants to go back to that life because that's his glory days.
So he's like living the quote American dream right now, right? Where he's got the big house and
all the money
and everything.
Yeah. And then there's this other guy, Trevor, who also used to pull jobs with Michael, and he's like the crazy one.
Right. And
he's got like a messed up past, and he's just crazy. He's the guy you switch to when you want to just kill random people. He's the one who can do rampages.
Interesting.
Because he gets mad. Yeah, so they actually make rampages kind of like a mission thing. They're much easier to find. There's few rampages in the other ones too. But one of the best ones is the hipster rampage.
The hipster rampage.
Yeah, you go up to this. Go up to this guy, this hipster who's sitting there, and he gets mad at him for some reason and pulls out a gun, and then the rampage starts, and then hipsters just ride up on their little mopeds and start shooting you, and you just shoot them and kill them. Probably one of the best rampages ever.
Oh jeez.
So yeah, GTA 5 is interesting. They all have their own special abilities too.
Yeah. The
most useful has got to be Franklin's though. He slows down time while you're in the car, so you can maneuver the car a lot better, take impossible turns.
Oh, and that's only Franklin.
Avoid traffic. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. accident avoidal and stuff, which is great for not running into that post that just spawned ahead of you, which was an issue in San Andreas, not so much
the ghost town.
Yeah, it's like, where's everything, and then it just starts spawning up, and you run into it. Yeah,
it was a Silent Hill. That's what it was.
Michael can slow down time just on foot. It's supposed to be for aiming and stuff like that. And Trevor he goes into rage mode, which increases, he does double damage and takes half damage.
So, it's funny, when you're talking about the characters and what each of them do, it sounds very much like a Final Fantasy or Donkey Kong Adventure or something like that.
They all have special abilities. Yeah, more game-like. I like that they added these special things, because it brings the game back to game world.
Well, what's weird is that it's still in the whole quote, realistic world.
Yeah, it's really meshing two things that are just like, okay, do you want to be real or do you want to be a game?
Now, aesthetically, does that feel fine? Does that feel like it makes sense, or?
The rage mode doesn't feel so much because it gets this filter over it and it feels weird. The driving thing, you don't really think anything of it. You're just like, oh yeah, it's going slow time now.
Well, because it just feels like a game.
Yeah.
Like you're just playing a game.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like you're going through a serious cutscene and then you slow-mo it. But, on the other hand, they have cutscenes that aren't so serious. I mean, like, Michael gets drugged a couple times, and he's like flying through the air, falling down in his underpants just through the night in the city, and then people are talking in the background. I have absolutely no idea what the purpose of that cutscene is, or why you can play. And it ends by the time you're about to hit the ground. But yeah, I have no idea why that's in there.
I wonder if
I think it's just to show off the city.
Maybe. I wonder if they want their audience to take their game seriously at some points, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Because there's a whole, from what I understand, Michael and his kid have some sort of a father-son thing going on, right?
Yeah, they have issues because it's like, oh yeah, I love you, but you're an asshole.
Right. Well, the classic father-son thing.
Yeah.
But the rich kid who was a
rich snobby kid
who was never really loved as a child or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's kind of, it's not a heavy topic, but it's a real topic. And this is such a gamey game. Does it work?
In my opinion, no. It doesn't. I don't like it. It tries to be too heavy. It feels like it's trying to be too heavy or try to outreach over, because you do really stupid things. Michael especially, he does really his decisions. He's got an anger issues and stuff, so he flips out over every tiny thing, takes drastic measures, and then your family's always getting pissed off at you for it, or him, or whatever. It feels weird. It's not, I don't know, it's just odd. And then Franklin, he's personally my favorite to play as, because he's more of a, I don't know, almost more realistic. He's more of a likable character to me.
Mm-hmm.
Michael's more of a silver-tongued devil, and Trevor's crazy. Michael continues being like, oh, I'm not a bad guy kind of thing. It's like, I really don't want to be killing people, but I kill people, I shut jobs, I steal things. It felt good, but I want to be better. I don't understand him. And Franklin's just like, man, I don't want to live in the ghetto. I want something better for my life. But yet he'll do anything that people ask for him. It's like, hey man, come on man, let's go steal this coke from this guy and then sell it to somebody else. And he's like, all right man, I think you're an idiot, but I'll do it.
But I'll do it.
But I'll do it. It's like he can't think for himself.
Okay.
So I don't know, but so like I said, the world is pretty good. It's detailed, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Except you walk up to a door that can't be opened, and then you notice the texture's really low res, which is fine, but then you're like, oh yeah, it's a game. So it's almost like, hey, I'm not a game, but I'm a game.
Right.
Although I gotta say, I have some issues with GTA 5, and I also feel like this game it's the most overrated game ever made so far.
That's quite a statement.
I mean, I don't. It's not a reach at all.
I'd say
I don't
Half-Life
think.
3 is probably the most overrated.
Oh, that's confirmed, by the way. You heard it here. Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Yeah, at least they didn't split GTA 5 into episodes to try and let people not wait as long for the next game to come
I hear
out.
GTA 6 is never coming out.
What's
because GTA 5 took 5 years to...
Anyways, so GTA 5, it's been getting 10 out of 10s like crazy.
Right. Yeah, it has, yeah.
And I've heard from some places that they say, oh yeah, that makes sense on paper. Like if I were to follow the kind of review process, I would give GTA 5 a 10 out of 10. Even though that there's things about GTA 5 I don't like.
There's something there that I want to comment on later. I'll hold that thought.
But, I mean, to me, that doesn't make sense. How fun was the game to play?
Uh-huh.
And that's my thing, is if you like to do your own crap and just like, make your own sort of fun in a sandbox, yeah, sure, there's fun. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can do yoga for some reason. You have to at least do it once to progress through the story. But you can do it later if you want. I mean, that's a side thing that's not really fun to do, but you can do it, and you gotta do it for 100% if you want. And then there's tennis is really badly implemented, but it's there, you can do it.
So these are kind of just tacked on things?
I think they just put them in there to say, hey, we can do stuff. I mean, like GTA 4 had some, like we said, bowling, and they had arcades.
So you're saying like they're trying to prove how lively the game is?
Yeah, I was like, look at all this stuff you can actually do. Golf, on the other hand, actually isn't that bad. It's no Tiger Woods, but it's actually playable.
Tell me if all these mini games that you run into that are shitty, could they, if they were good mini games, like in their own rights, like not related to GTA at all, but if they were good implementations inside of GTA, would you still feel like they were bad additions?
I would kind of question why they're there, but I know why they're there. So I guess I wouldn't be questioning anymore. I think it's really just to expand on the world, to say, hey, there's a golf club in this city. You can you can play golf if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it. Yoga, I would question, like, why is there? I still would question, even if it was fun. It's like, wait, why can't you yoga? Or, but anyways, if they were better implemented, and if they were actually fun to do all these things, then I mean, like, yeah, sure, more power to you. But I mean, I don't see the point in adding something, just a mini game that's not,
it's just superfluous.
That's not as polished.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I playing this mini game when I could really just drive around and have more fun?
So they're just meaningless, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's how I feel about those. But that's, again, still, that only contributes partially to the reason why I think this game's overrated. So like I said, I think it sits at like 97 out of 100 on average.
It's very high, yeah.
Very high, ridiculously high. But then again, back to being like, is the game fun? And here's why I think that the ratings are way too high. For me, this is no more than 8 out of 10. I would probably give it 7.5.
Okay.
Based on gameplay. So they have the right mechanics there, like driving feels good, the special abilities is fun and stuff like that. Let's look at the missions. That's really the point of the game, the story, right?
Right.
The story is kind of the core of most games, unless there is no story. But there is a story, therefore that's the focus. Story, mission, and that's how you quote-unquote beat the game, is by completing the last story. That's how most people classify it.
Right.
So, in this story, first of all, it suffers the same thing as the previous GTAs, where it's hard to actually figure out, wait, how do one mission link to the other? Why are you doing this mission exactly? And then there's the missions themselves. I found that most of them just weren't fun at all. Like, some I really like, oh my gosh.
No fun.
Why? Why?
Like, not fun as in there's
I'd
no
rather
point to
it's
them?
boring, as in it's very boring.
It's just very boring to do. Do you think they had a purpose in it being boring, whatever it was?
I think, well, I think at the core of my overall argument, I feel like GTA 5 is basically a large tech demo. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like a very well polished game. It feels like a giant tech demo.
Okay, interesting.
So I think they're there just to add to the game's variety or something, or to shove the largeness of the world down your throat.
Right.
So, for instance, there's a mission where you're flying in a chopper and you're recording Franklin's actions. You're trying to help him follow this other guy. And once he catches up to him, you watch him chase this other guy while you and the pilot have a conversation that's meaningless. It's not fun to do at all. It's not to control
So
by camera.
It's the game showing off then.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Because that's the only time you use the mechanic of using that CVV or whatever camera it's called.
CCTV.
Yeah, on the police chopper. That's the only time you do it. There's another point in the game where you're switching red lights and green lights around as part of this heist mechanic type gameplay that they introduced early on in the game. Something that you can plan out heists to steal stuff, but they only do, I think, 5 of them throughout the whole game, and I don't count 2 or 3 of them. I can't remember. Because the reason why I don't count them is because you're not actually making decisions on those. I'll get into that in a minute. And again, you're only doing this light switching once. That one's not too bad. There's another part where you're actually mopping in the game. Mopping's not fun in real life. It's not fun in the game either.
Well, why are you doing it in the game?
It's part of the mission stories. Like it makes sense why you're mopping, but why do you actually have to be mopping?
Does it?
So you're pretending to be a janitor. So you pick up a mop and a bucket, and you set your bucket down at a location that it tells you to. You dip the mop in there, and it tells you to wipe the dirt off these floors. So you walk over there, you wipe some dirt off, and then it'll say your mop is dirty. Go back to the bucket and clean it, and then go back and clean the rest of the floor.
Okay, so they have game mechanics forcing you to do a meaningless task.
Yeah,
basically.
because for that area, it's again I think it's a show off. It only shows up in that one mission. That's all it's for.
Let me ask you this real quick. Hold on to the thought of where you're headed. This whole thing about doing superfluous tasks and things that don't matter within the master of the gameplay.
Right.
When you're playing, say, like a horror game, right? Say something like Outlast, and you have to hide from the monster. When you're hiding, it's not fun.
Not necessarily, but you're freaking out, right?
Right.
You're like, oh my gosh,
Right.
don't see me.
So
Don't see me.
So that whole point of you hiding is to keep your engagement. And would you say that these tasks that the game is making you do is totally unengaging? Is that what it is?
That's how I feel.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't feel engaged
Okay.
at all. I feel like, oh, come on.
Okay.
There's a couple others. I'll talk about 3 more,
Yeah.
just to limit it. There's a point during a heist where you're using a submarine, which is, it's cool. There's a submarine, and somebody made a mod in San Andreas for there to be a submarine, which was, it's cool.
That's interesting.
That's pretty cool. But in this case, the submarine it controls, I guess, realistically because it's very slow.
Oh, that's right. You told me about this.
And a lot of their stuff controls, I guess they try to make it realistic, so things that you would think are slow are slow. And the submarine, you have to drive it like a crazy distance, especially if you choose a certain method.
It's just really slow.
It's very slow, and you have to, in one point, you have to take it to the bottom of the sea, and it takes forever. I don't know how long that mission is. It's got to be like half an hour just for the submarine portion, or at least that's what it feels like. It drags out.
So that's just the game saying, look, you can drive a submarine.
Yeah, and look how deep our ocean goes.
Oh,
Look how
jeez.
many fish are in here. Look at this. Isn't this detailed? Oh my gosh, be impressed. So you drive it to the floor and you get it all the way back up too. Very slow. Takes forever. I mean, yeah, cool. They made a whole underground water thing. It's actually really cool. It would have been a lot more fun to do if I was just exploring it on my own instead of getting that forced down my throat. Because then I can choose, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm just going to turn off the game. I don't have to save it. But no, in this case, if I want to stop, I'm not going to stop, right? Because I want to get this part over with. Because otherwise I have to do it again.
What's I gonna do? That's something you don't want to hear from a gamer ever on your game.
Don't want to do this again.
I want to play this through because I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
That's how it feels.
That's terrible. That sounds. So again, sorry. Let me interject one more time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Extra Credits did an episode about something called awesome per second that games should have. It's a classic rule back in game design, where if your game is not engaging somebody for engagement purposes, then it's failing, right? They said that later Assassin's Creed games suffer from this length of play versus awesome per second, right? Their length of play has to be this big, therefore their awesome per second is more like this.
Which they can't see which they're.
Oh, right, sorry.
their
So the length of the game is huge. Awesome is not very huge, so they have to spread out their awesome throughout the game, which makes the points in between very, very
like
bad.
the little tick marks on a roller.
Exactly.
You have a yardstick is your length of game, and then you mark every foot as an awesome.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And you don't want that. You'd rather have a 2-hour really good experience.
Yeah.
Rather than a 60-hour meh.
Absolutely. Look at Portal. I mean, the first game very short.
Man, I have such comments about Portal, but yes.
Yes, another time.
Maybe, yeah.
On to the rant. Another instance is you got to take a chopper as to the highest point that you can go. You're just keep climbing and climbing, and that's saying hey, look how high you can go. Look how high you can go. Look at the city. Isn't it beautiful?
Oh man.
Come on. Can't I do that on my own time?
Right.
I mean, it's more fun to explore something when it's on your own time.
Right.
Then instead of a mission saying, hey, you got to do this.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's definitely right, especially if it's detracting from the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not you're just holding a button for 10 minutes until you reach the height. So it's come on, what's the point? So there's so many little things. It's just why this? Why are you doing that? Quit. They're just trying to show off. That's what it feels like, and that's why I said it feels like a giant tech demo.
That's interesting because you said that it feels like they're trying to show off.
Yeah, you can literally have them feel them behind you saying "Are you enjoying this? This is great, isn't it? Right?" And it's somebody just cooked you a meal and you don't want to tell them, and they're asking you how is it? Is it good? Is it good? It's good, right? Yeah, sure, it's good.
Did you see the capers? You saw the capers, right?
So I mean,
that's funny.
Man, it's just I can't. And then there's other missions where you're doing the driving, and I gotta say a lot of the missions have you driving a considerable distance.
Yeah.
And the driving itself, the mechanic's good, but when you're on the freeway for a long time, it's okay, when am I gonna get there? And it's just really long. And what's also funny is that the characters, if you're not doing something super quickly, if you don't finish exactly when they stop talking, they say, hurry up, man, can't you get there faster? And they antagonize you for not getting there faster. So if you have to walk from point A to point B, from one car to another, say, and it's okay, let's go, and then you get out of the car, you start heading towards that car, you decide not to run because it's not very far. By the time you're just about to get there, come on, dude, get in the car. And that's something that I've seen in other GTAs too. It's where they rush you and there's no reason for it, and it really hasn't even been that long.
It's probably just delivering.
I think it's for humor or something.
You think so?
I don't know why they do that. It's just that kind of thing. So anyways, overall, the gameplay wise, there's things you can do that are fun, but I felt the majority of the game just wasn't enjoyable to actually go ahead and go through those actions. Oh, and that other thing, the heist that I mentioned, that was actually, I thought was really pretty cool when they show this kind of pretty early in the game. You get to decide, so it's you're going to pull a job, you're going to steal something, and you already have the target. You have to decide, okay, who am I going to bring along? What method am I going to use? And there's usually some other kind of choice that you make in there. So you make some choices on this. And that affects, actually, obviously, how you're going to do it. For instance, the first one is either you're just going to gun down people, or you're going to put them to sleep and then steal stuff. Which is interesting. I mean, makes you want to play it again so you can see how it happens again. And like I said, you can choose your crew, like your driver, your gunner, and that kind of thing. So this happens, I think, 5 times in the game. The next one, you get to choose you only get to choose the approach, either by air or by sea, with the submarine. And then I think the following one, you don't get to choose anything.
Is there a reason why you can't choose these things?
They wanted you to do the mission a certain way, I guess. They wanted you to experience these miniguns or something. I'm not sure why there couldn't be another way. Maybe they didn't think of it.
There's no story reason for it. It's just
not that I could see. I mean,
that's interesting.
Why not have another approach there? And then later you actually, okay, this one you can choose your crew and you can choose an approach, and you have all the choices there, and it feels like a heist. Or some of the other ones, and one of them didn't matter. Like you got the product, and then it's like, oh, dude, we can't use that. You got to return it or something. And it's like, okay, why did I do that? And that was one that wasn't fun to do either. So
it'd be cool to have. I mean, I know they have other games like this, but if they had that mechanic in GTA, and just, you know, if you could plan whenever and just do
just
a
run
heist
with
whatever.
It. That would be cool. Choose your target.
Yeah.
Choose your crew. Choose the approach. Yeah, I would be all for that. But I mean, it was weird because it felt like a big thing. Like, oh, this is going to be a big thing of the game, and then it just really led up to disappointment because it's not really. It's it was disappointing. So again, I don't see how this game got 10 out of 10. I guess from like a technical perspective, yeah. I mean, look how huge the world is.
Right.
Oh, look at the customization.
Oh, it's freaking beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, this game is really like a revamped San Andreas. It takes place in San Andreas.
Mm-hmm.
It brings back a lot of things that San Andreas has, but not all of them. It brought back skills. It did not bring back getting fat or skinny, but it did bring back facial feature customization. You know, facial hair and haircuts. The clothes weren't ugly like they were in GTA 4. Car customization is really nice, although there's no nitrous, but that's okay. So a lot of things of the game's like, oh yeah, that's cool to have. It's just like the main story and the missions, how long it takes to do things. It's just, And I know my rant has sent us over.
No, that's fine.
Bit,
no, I was just wondering. I wanted to add on to it.
I don't know how they can. Why 10 out of 10? I don't see it. I don't get it.
It's interesting that you mentioned the whole 10 out of 10 aspect about reviews, technically reviewing games. So when you brought up Portal 1, and I'm just going to make this really quick because we'll talk about this in another episode. But the first Portal, to me, was just an amazing experience, right? There was never a game like that, technically or storytelling-y. And the game got like the high score that IGN gave it was 8.5, and I'm like, okay, well that's good, but it
is a good score.
Yeah, but it's not just a good game; it's a great game.
yeah. I mean, comparatively to other games,
right? And it's because it's so unique, and the experiences that you have are so different, and the stuff that you do is so interesting, and it's just, you know, why not base your reviews on engagement and interesting stuff happening rather than just the technical ability? Because the only reasons why that game got any low scores was because of how short it was.
Yeah.
So, you know, games don't need to have a certain length. If
they're
the
going
game's
off
under 30 hours, then it sucks. You know, then it's under 8. No.
If we were going by, if reviews were on how long a game was, how long the campaign was, then I mean, no first-person shooter nowadays could get anything over an 8, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean, my
Titanfall or freaking Overwatch.
My friend got Halo 5. It only took him 6 hours to beat the game, and he said, "I'm not going to go back." Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to play it again actually, because the multiplayer I liked has this weird mechanic in it that I hate. So he traded in everything to get this game, to get the Xbox One and get the game.
jeez.
And then he's like, okay, I'm not gonna play this game again.
Oh, man.
So I mean that sucks. But
Man. Yeah, so, reviews is another episode, but yeah, that is interesting. But not to say that any of the GTA games are bad at a core, because they are all very, very, very enjoyable. Just because the open world mechanic is just so fun to mess with.
yeah, to me, for an extent, I get bored after some time.
Same here. In fact, in San Andreas, so I think I still have San Andreas on my computer. I was gonna say I uninstalled it, but yeah, every now and then I'll get into it, grab a rocket launcher, grab a jetpack, go to the top part of a building, and just start shooting rockets until I get cops everywhere.
There's your inner maniac.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, GTA games, man.
Yeah. Well, this is Breaking Buttons. Hope you guys enjoyed our extra long podcast this time.
We'll go over different games next time, and you won't know until we talk about it. So we're signing off. Devon Keys.
And Justin Keys.
Peace.
See ya.